Throughout history, humanity has known war. Empires have clashed. Armies have marched. Cities have burned beneath the fires of conquest. Yet among all the prophecies of Scripture, there is one that speaks of a conflict unlike any other, a mysterious war, a gathering of nations, a leader known only by a strange name, Gog, a ruler from distant lands, a leader who gathers armies from across the earth, a coalition so vast that the prophet describes it like a storm cloud covering the land. But this prophecy is not only about war, it is about something far greater. It is about the moment when God Himself intervenes, a moment when human pride reaches its limit and heaven answers. Tonight we enter one of the most mysterious prophecies in the Bible, the prophecy of Gog and Magog. To understand this prophecy, we must return to the life of the prophet Ezekiel. Ezekiel lived during one of the darkest periods in Israel's history. Jerusalem had been destroyed. The temple had been burned, and the people of Israel had been carried away into exile, far from their homeland, far from their temple. Yet even in exile, God continued to speak, through visions, through revelations, through prophecies that stretched far beyond Ezekiel's lifetime. Among these prophecies was one of the most mysterious messages ever recorded, a prophecy about a future invasion, an army from distant lands, led by a figure called Gog. The prophecy begins with a declaration. The word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, set your face against Gog, of the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. These names echo with ancient mystery. Magog, Meshech, Tubal, places that once existed in the distant northern regions beyond Israel. To the ancient audience, these were lands far away, mysterious, unknown, symbolizing the outer edges of the world. And from those distant lands, a leader would rise. A leader named Gog. The prophecy describes Gog as a powerful ruler, a leader who commands vast armies. Nations gather around him. Warriors from distant regions, soldiers equipped with weapons and shields, horsemen riding across the plains. The coalition grows larger. Ezekiel lists them one by one. Persia, Cush, Put, Gomer, Beth Togarmah. A massive confederation of peoples, different languages, different cultures, yet united by a single purpose, to march against the land of Israel. But the prophecy describes something important. Israel will not be weak when this invasion happens. The nation will have been restored. The people gathered from many lands, the cities rebuilt, the land flourishing again. It will be a time when Israel lives in peace, villages without walls, a people confident in their safety. And in that moment of peace the invasion begins, like a storm rising on the horizon. Ezekiel describes the invading army like a dark cloud covering the land. Countless soldiers, armies stretching across the landscape. Their goal is simple: plunder, conquest, dominion. God believes the victory will be easy. Israel appears vulnerable, unprotected, an easy prize, but Gog does not realize something. This invasion is part of God's plan. The Lord declares something astonishing. I will put hooks in your jaws. I will bring you out with your whole army. In other words, Gog believes he is acting on his own ambition. But in reality, God is drawing him into a moment of judgment. The invasion becomes a stage, a moment where God will reveal his power before the nations. Because human pride often believes it controls the future, but God remains sovereign over history. As Gog's armies advance, something extraordinary happens. The earth itself begins to shake, mountains tremble, cliffs collapse, walls fall to the ground. A massive earthquake spreads across the land. Confusion erupts among the invading forces. Soldiers turn against one another. Weapons clash in chaos. The once organized army descends into panic, and then fire falls from heaven. Rain, hailstones, burning sulfur. A divine storm unlike anything the world has seen. The Lord declares the reason for this dramatic intervention. I will display my greatness. I will show my holiness. I will make myself known in the sight of many nations. The purpose of the prophecy is not merely destruction. It is revelation. A moment when humanity sees clearly that God is not absent. He is not distant. He is not powerless. He is the ruler of creation, the judge of nations, the one who determines the rise and fall of armies. After the battle, the land is filled with the remains of the defeated army. The prophet describes a long process of cleansing. Weapons are gathered, cities recover. The land is purified, and the people recognize something profound. Their survival was not the result of military strength. It was the result of divine intervention. God himself defended them. Interestingly, the names Gog and Magog appear again later in Scripture, in the final prophetic visions recorded by John the Apostle. There, the names symbolize a final rebellion of nations against God. Once again, humanity gathers in defiance, and once again, God brings decisive judgment. The message remains consistent. No rebellion can overcome the purposes of God. For believers reading this prophecy today, the message is both sobering and hopeful. Sobering because it reminds us that the world will always experience conflict. Hopeful because it reveals that history is not controlled by chaos. God is still guiding the story. Even when nations rage, even when the future feels uncertain, the Lord remains sovereign. The prophecy of Gog and Magog is not only about war, it is about revelation. A moment when the nations recognize the authority of God, a reminder that no army is greater than the Creator of heaven and earth, and that every attempt to oppose him ultimately fails. If this message strengthened your faith, write in the comments, "The Lord is my defender," because the same God who defeated the armies of Gog still watches over his people today.